Good afternoon, everyone. We hope that you can all hear us. We are very pleased today to welcome you to the General Information webinar about the first joint transnational confounding call of the Sustainable Blue Economy Partnership. This call is entitled The Way Forward, a Thriving Sustainable Blue Economy for a Brighter Future. So this session is planned to last 2 hours and a half. So first we will share the agenda with you, but as you register, you have already seen this agenda. Briefly, we will start with an introduction and a welcome by Margherita Capelletto. Next, we will have an introduction to the first co-funded call. Maurice Herald will present the priority areas of this call. You will then have some general information towards applicants. Next, we will share with you the call process, the eligibility rules, the selection procedure, and the evaluation criteria. Next, we will have some information about the submission system and the partner tool. And at the end, we will present you the brokerage event, and we will finish with the next step. Just some brief introduction about the webinar and how it will be organized. So you can see that this webinar is recorded and it will be available on replay. The audio is only available to speakers. So as participant, you cannot speak, you cannot raise your hand, and you cannot show your camera. However, you will be able to ask your question. We have planned several Q&A sessions during this webinar. So you will have to use the WebEx Q&A tool. Just some guidelines. You will be able to ask your question, but this question will have to be related to the ongoing topic session. If you have questions related to your national or regional funding organization, we please ask you to consult the Annex B of the call documents and to contact your national regional contact points. The list of these national contact points is available in the Annex B of the call announcement. For any other specific question about the call, we, the Joint Call Secretariat, are of course available at any time to answer your question.
We didn't hear you.
What did you not hear, Maurice? Margherita, can you hear us? Yes? Yeah. Okay, so we will continue. So you have the email address at the bottom for the Joint Call Secretariat. So we will start with a welcome and an introduction by Margherita. Margherita, please, you can have the floor.
Thank you very much, Claude and colleagues, for organizing this important webinar today. My name is Margherita Cappelletto. I'm working at the Italian Ministry of University and Research, and as coordinator of the partnership, I am very pleased today to welcome all participants, and I am looking at the increasing number of participants that are joining today, proving that there is a very strong interest in the first transnational co-funded call of the Sustainable Blue Economy Partnership. As a matter of fact, today we are in a way returning back to the community of stakeholders from whose research and innovation needs our strategy design started. And through the participation and application to the transnational co-funded call, we are sure you will contribute to the big picture as far as regard its achievements. And when I'm speaking about the big picture, allow me to share with you the claim of the vision of the partnership, which is which aims at designing, steering, and support a just inclusive transition to a regenerative and sustainable circular blue economy, to support the condition for healthy oceans for the people by 2050, with the ultimate goal of contributing to the European policies, in particular the Green Deal, the digital transformation, and the resilience and recovery package, as well as the UN Sustainable Development Goals. As you know, perhaps the partnership is a public-public instrument developed in the framework of the European Framework Programme for Research and Innovation, Horizon Europe, that brought together 25 among member states and associated countries that together with the European Commission will pool investments over 7 years and are actually starting pooling investment that will last for 7 years of about 450 million euros. The process leading to what will be presented today, to this first transnational co-funded call, started from the publication of a co-owned strategic research and innovation agenda, from where the 5 impact-oriented thematic intervention areas were designed. Third step was the identification of the topics that will be illustrated in a minute. The overall process that I am very briefly touched upon, but I do not want to take your time because the key information will be delivered by colleagues soon. But it is important to say that this overall process was underlined by a mandate to keep the connectivity from the national to the regional to the European and global level, across sea basins, across sector and disciplines. Having said that, as I said, I will immediately pass the floor to colleagues, not without forgetting of thanking you all again and thanking all members and funders of the Call Steering Committee, as well as colleagues of the Joint Call Secretariat and colleagues that have been supporting the whole process to leading to the publication of the call text and all needed and related documents. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Margherita. We will continue with Carolina Torres. She will give us an introduction to this first call. Carolina, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Coraline. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carolina Torres. I am a project manager at Regional Fund for Research and Innovation, FRCT. We have a call managing role together with the Joint Call Secretariat. As my colleague Margherita already mentioned, the vision of this partnership, this call and all the future calls of this partnership will be aligned with the vision and the goals of this partnership. Next slide, please. The pandemic has shown how the EU economy is vulnerable, and the blue economy sectors, they were not an exception of these consequences. As we are moving forward, we have this unique opportunity to tackle the challenges presented by this pandemic to achieve a more resilient and sustainable recovery of the blue economy. Next. Therefore, as Coraline already mentioned, the first call entitled The Way Forward, the Thriving Sustainable Blue Economy for a Brighter Future aims to support transnational research and innovation projects with a duration of 36 months. These projects must be impact-driven contributions on the transformation into a blue economy for a more resilient future towards a carbon neutrality targets and following an impact pathway approach. These projects must be at a pan-European level and in the different European sea basins and in the Atlantic Ocean. And we cannot forget that we need to establish close cross-sectorial cooperation in science, innovation, and the economic sector. Also, the projects need to be developed in agreement with these EU policies, as it is explained in the call text. For this call, we have 5 priority areas. The first one is planning and managing sea uses at the regional level, development of offshore marine multi-uses infrastructures to support the blue economy, climate neutral, environmentally sustainable and resource efficient blue food and feed, green transition of blue food production, and digital twins of the ocean, test uses at EU sea basins and the Atlantic Ocean. Please note that a project can only cover one priority area. So 36 research funding organizations from 23 countries are responsible to fund this call. 19 are member states of the European Union and 4 are associated countries. And we are very pleased to announce that Brazil is going to join this call. Soon you will have all the information regarding the agencies from Brazil in the Annex B. This is the budget for our first call, budget for country. We have a total of 54 million euros with the European Commission top up. And how this call works. We will only have one single ranking list. It will not be a ranking list per priority area. It will be a single one, and the projects will be funded from the highest to the lowest ranked project, together with the European Commission co-funds. And this is the call timeline. You have until the 14th of April at 15 Brussels time to apply. Please don't leave everything for the very last day because the platform can crash and we will be very tight with the deadline. To the ones who pass the pre-proposal phase, you will have until the 13th of September to submit the full proposal. And we are expecting to start the project on the 1st of February until the last day of May 2024. From my side is everything. Thank you so much and good luck to everyone.
Thanks a lot, Carolina. We will now have a presentation of the 5 priority areas of this call by Maurice Herral. Maurice, the floor is yours if you are ready.
Okay, thank you, Caroline. First slide, please. Yes, we have 5 priority areas, and as it has been said, you have to answer to one priority per project. The first topic, it's about planning and managing CUs at the regional level. And of course, you have all in your region or in your countries some approach about MSP. And it's important here to say that we want to have integration at the regional level, at the local level, between different countries, and you see that the call is open for all the different regional sea basins. And it must be, of course, co-designed with the competent authorities, local, regional, national, and also with the people in charge of monitoring that management plan. And cross-border cooperation, again, it's very important. And we have to move from regional, local to the international agreement and negotiations about the use of the space in your area, and taking in charge all the different scenarios, and mainly in relation with climate change, sea level rise, coastal flooding, and impact of extreme events like erosions and consequences of erosions and sedimentation, but also all the inputs of the river, which are changing the nutrients, and in relation with, for example, the change in the common agriculture policy with a decrease of, which is expected for 2030 and 2050. Next slide. We need also to have a large place in this approach about managing space, about marine protected areas, and connectivity between the different areas for biodiversity conservation, including the corridors between different areas. All the activities must be including in the spatial management, like fisheries management, and you saw last week the new regulation which is asked by the Commission about marine protected areas and fisheries, and the future ban about trawlers in marine protected areas, navigation, gravels and sand extractions, offshore wind farms, which is quite more and more important now, and oil and gas extractions. But also taking in account the coastal approach with all the equipment and the industry of the coastal zone, like harbors, cities, tourism, which is a major player in the role, and of course sustainable aquaculture. We could also have the cumulative and respective impact in relation with changes on the watershed. And it would be appreciated if you could develop new decision support tools, including the social, economical components, to develop this tool for competent authorities with different scenarios in relation with climate change, but also in relation with biodiversity evolution, or in relation with activities, industrial activities. And to obtain at the regional level agreement about future evolutions. And you see that scale, which is expecting it to have something for the next 30 or 50 years at the regional scale. Thank you. Next one. Now we will move to the second one, which is development of offshore marine multi-use infrastructure to support the blue economy. Here the keyword is multi-use, and you see that it's open for all the location, and how we can create this offshore infrastructures with different activities, because as it has been decided, for example, to create wind farms, how we can create some other uses around these wind farms, and could be constructions of other energy sources like photovoltaic or hydrogen, but it could be also some other uses more classical, like fisheries. Next slide. Like fisheries and aquaculture, combining, you see, the aquaculture facilities with the offshore platform. Also in relations with lack of fresh water in on the coastal zone, production of freshwater resources with desalinization of seawater could be one interested approach. And of course, how marine protected areas can be also compatible with biodiversity conservations, including marine protected areas. And for example, by creating some infrastructure like artificial reefs or no-take zones. And try to see all these activities, how they will be, they will change in the time in relation with the evolution of the environmental conditions, and it could be model on this issue, and to develop a win-win approach of the co-use, including economical mutual benefits, but also including, which is something important, social acceptance and competition between the different uses. The third one, it's about climate neutral, environmentally sustainable and resource efficient blue food and feed. And the blue food, it's of course, we are targeting on sustainable management of bioresources, and in relation with the target to be more climate neutral. And it's open for all the sea basins. And the first issue, it's about trying to increase the selectivity to reduce and avoid bycatch, and including development technology and research to develop innovative fishing gears, to reduce discards, and to develop more sustainable fisheries, and restricting the fishing of undersized and non-commercial species. Promoting of alternative technologies for demersal trawlers. We spoke about the interaction with marine protected areas, but not only demersal trawlers, but also dredges, which are causing detrimental effect on benthic biodiversity. Recycling, it's a keyword as well for the aquaculture and the fisheries. The recycling marine waste for innovative use as for healthy and sustainable feed. Next. And also try to see how we can increase the production of low trophic level marine species. Because more there will be low trophic, more there will be less consuming of energy and less consuming of fuel. To increase fishery and aquaculture production and develop the sustainability, it can be algae, it can be bivalves, you see, it can be herbivorous fishes. Increase our knowledge on biological characteristics on the mesopelagic potential resources. You know that there is a challenge. Do we need to have new fisheries on mesopelagic resources? But before that, we need to know quite well the biology of these ecosystems, the growth, the reproduction, the spawning nurseries of these resources. And after, if it's feasible, try to plan a scenario about the sustainability of mesopelagic fisheries from all the different aspects, as well biology, ecology, and socio-economical perspectives. And it must be complementarity with MESO, which is a Horizon Europe project. Of course, all the projects must be developed in relation with the mission project and also the different initiatives funded by Horizon 2020 or funded by Horizon Europe, and also funding by some regional funds with Interreg. Next one, thanks. The second part of the blue food, bioeconomy, blue food, You have one about the selectivity and new resources. The second one, it's about how we can develop some technology, some digital approach, some to increase the productivity and competitivity and the carbon neutrality of the sector. And how, for example, automations and refinement of production process in as well aquaculture, but as well as fisheries, can contribute to increase food quality and carbon neutrality. It's open to all the ideas that you could have. Analysis of the life cycle of the process to reduce carbon footprint in fisheries and aquaculture. Develop technological innovation in phases which are the most energy consuming. Against the problem of demersal trawlers is here. Next one. And the objective is to have a reduction of CO2 emission caused by trawlers, but also dredging and through resuspension of seafloor and sediment, and of course reduction of benthic biodiversity. What are the digital solutions to contribute to the increase of sustainability of the production of aquaculture, but also reducing of overfishing? And be careful that we need to avoid duplication with, for example, Copernicus Marine Services. They are developing some applications on tuna fisheries and onshore. And also complementary with carbon neutrality of the fishing vessels. It must be in complementarity with zero emission waterborne transport, which is a partnership which is working on the greening of the vessels. But here we are more working on the greening of the fishing vessels. It's including all the equipment for fisheries. And the last priority areas, it's about digital twin. And we want, a lot of people are working about digital twin, but here we want to focus our priorities area again at the sea basin scale or Atlantic one, but it's also, it will be regionally based at the subsea basin. And first thing you have to demonstrate that why you selected this area, what are the information which are accurate in these areas, what are the existing data, and all the oceanographic bathymetry, pollutions, all the trophic web information about marine species, including, of course, fishery stocks, ecological data, and so on. After, what are the existing data collections and representations, how you can build some data sets, some database with standard format of the data sets, and also in relation with, for example, for all the physical parameters with Copernicus against, and with the other initiative as we previously spoke about. And next slide. It will be open to all the locations and identify gaps in data. In this first call, it's important to know what has been well monitoring, but also what are the gaps in the data. If we want to model the trophic web, for example, in an ecosystem, do you have all the data, enough data?
I guess we have lost Maurice. We will wait a few seconds, see if he can connect back. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so Maurice cannot reconnect yet. We suggest to have... he's back. Thank you, Maurice.
No, yeah, it's the last slide. After you had the development of the models, you need to play with scenario in relation with the stakeholders, the policymakers, to know what are the economic and society components that that the models could illustrate, and to give some information to the stakeholders and policymakers in the region with some scenarios which will be based in relation with the 30 and 50 years for the different users. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maurice, for your presentation. For the participants, if you have any question about the priority areas, we encourage you to use the Q&A session. Meanwhile, I will present the next slides. It's about some general recommendation for the applicants. So I will not read everything. You have everything in the call text. But we wanted to insist on some points that are very important. The pre-proposals and the full proposal should are encouraged to go beyond the state of the art by providing high-quality research and innovation. The proposal should be, of course, scientifically excellent and relevant to policies framed under the blue economy, and consider ongoing research activities funded by other European missions, instruments, programs, or projects. Of course, cooperation with these activities is highly important. The different proposals should also contribute to cross-cutting teams. I'm not going to read everything, but you must consider the open data policy, the development of capacity building activities, and also, for instance, the ocean literacy activities. Proposals are also strongly encouraged to cover a broad geographic scale. So they should cover more than one sub-sea basin at the European scale. They are expected to consider several European sea basins, or at least to consider the impact of the project on several European sea basins. Finally, proposals are also encouraged to consider geographical balance. And also, you are strongly encouraged to involve stakeholders. For instance, small and medium enterprise, industries, authorities, public administration, association, as well as civil society organization as partners or self-funded partners. And you should also integrate the gender dimension of your research and innovation activities. Thank you for your attention. We now have a few minutes for questions. So I will ask my colleague if you have wait some question in the Q&A.
Yes, we have a first question for Maurice. Is topic 3 limited to aquaculture production at sea, or can it include land-based production as well?
If your objective is to decrease the carbon footprint of the aquaculture on land, of course, yes, on the coastal zones. Yes, because very often the hatcheries, the nurseries are based on land.
We have a second question. Are projects on recirculating aquaculture systems eligible under Area 4?
Recirculating, yes, but again, present a carbon budget and energy consuming.
And we have a third question in topic 5. Is the Arctic Ocean included in the geographical coverage of the Atlantic?
I don't think that we could have also some we are received by email some questions about overseas territories. Of course, it will be difficult to ask them to work in the British Channel or to work in the Mediterranean areas because they are a bit far. It's the same with Arctic, and but they can work about development of wind farms and with associated other uses like aquaculture. They can work also on, for example, selectivity of fishing. And as Claude say, when you will answer to the with your proposals, you will have to select the different sea basins, and there is an area which is other, and you can select other because Arctic or Antilles or Guyana or Pacific are not directly connected to sea basin, but they are placed in other locations.
We have another question regarding priority 5, the comparative analysis of ecological models using different use cases can propose different best models for these different regions.
Of course, it will be welcome to comparisons of models, and to very often the different models could have different different objectives, and also to compare them, to have sensibility analysis of the different models will be very useful. To and after it will be you can propose also what is for one use, what is the best models which could be used.
A question about offshore renewable topic. Is it limited to feasibility studies, mainly research, simulation, and lab-scale prototype development, or something practical is expected as an outcome for offshore renewable topic?
Yeah. For the offshore infrastructure, which could be wind farms, but also oil or gas platform, what is important is try to see what are the other activity and which could be developed in association. It means that what is important is to have impact. For example, does the wind farms have impact with the noise? For example, underwater noise, do they have impact on fish populations or shellfish populations? And you see, it's more. It's not a pre-study to develop the a wind farm. It's the study about all the activities which need to be placed in the same areas.
Another question, is plastic pollution a suitable topic for this call?
Plastic pollution, it's an important one, but this call is not really dedicated to contaminants, to pollution. And it means that we will first, water for all will have some. We could have some in the future calls, but not in that one. Sorry.
Is it better to cover multiple of the different points or a single topic, meaning increase the chance of funding, or is it better just as good to focus only on one point only?
First, we said that only one priority is eligible. And after, if it's, we put different questions, different line, is to illustrate what is expected. And you understand what is expected is to have a common project with a minimum of 3 countries, and with also participation of the industry, participation of the stakeholder and policymakers. and it will be function of the topics that you are choosing that you are deciding to have this type of partner or this one. And of course, more you are responding, answering to different subtopics, to different questions, more, I don't say, more you will be with in the spirit of the call, but careful to have all the teams involved with different competencies. You see, be careful to, if you are too wide, you will not have been sharp in each domain. You see, you need to find the balance between the size of the consortium and the size of your proposal.
Another question, are projects on climate mitigation and carbon removal strategy eligible?
Yes, they are eligible. About carbon neutrality is the main objective. And if you plan to have a carbon storage, it could be, for example, by using underwater storage in the seafloor, under the seafloor. And of course, you will develop some industry around that. And it must be first well integrated in marine spatial management. And secondly, it must be also associated with the other uses in the area.
On the topic 3, does alga mean macro alga only, or can it include micro alga as well?
Could include both kelp, seaweed, and also, but not microalgae. Yeah.
One of the last questions regarding priority 1, are projects related to the regulatory framework in a national level welcome?
It's the minimum requirement. It's a national, but after you need inside the project to join different national projects of between different countries, transbordering, to achieve to have a regional approach.
And one last question about offshore renewable energy. Is hydrogen production possible to be considered?
Yes, it's one of the questions. Yes, it could be. Of course, it could be welcome.
We have one last question that was just written about topic 3 on human consumption. Does this refer to foodstuff only, or also nutraceutical or high-value substances consumed by human eligible feeding as well?
Through development of biotechnology to use some why not? But first, the must be well indicated, and not a large screening, because a lot of projects did that. But you need first to focus on some issues. Secondly, to have a budget in terms of carbon budget. And secondly, to see if what are the recycling the origin of the material. Recycling waste, is it coming from fisheries? Is it coming from aquaculture? And how all the systems will be developed, you see.
Okay, this was the last scientific question. So I guess we can continue.
Thank you very much, Maurice, and thank you all for all your questions. We will continue and we will present some general information for the applicants. We are very lucky to have 3 different speakers for that session. They will talk about the theory of change, the open access, fair data. We will also have a presentation about ocean literacy and finally projects monitoring. We will start with Sylvain, and he will talk about theory of change and open access and fair data. Sylvain, the floor is yours.
So yeah, I will talk about a requirement that you will have to complete in the writing of your proposal regarding impact assessment. This corresponds to a global ambition of Horizon Europe to create impact-driven projects, meaning with significant societal and environmental impacts. So this is the reason why we request in the proposal a plan that describes what impact your project is expected to achieve in the long run. And one way to make such a plan is to establish a methodology of theory of change with a related impact pathway. So an impact pathway describes how the project will contribute to changes and finally lead to long-term changes with your project. So a few more information about the impact pathway. This is a logical framework which articulates the different steps, different changes, starting from the activities of your project, which produce outputs, which are the direct and immediate insight of your project. And in the long term, in the mid to long term, these outputs leads to changes in behavior, activities for your stakeholders, and this is what we refer to as the outcomes. And finally, the achievement of these outcomes will lead in the long term, far beyond the end of your project, to changes in economic, environmental issues or social conditions. So this is the long-term impact that your project is aiming at. Another important aspect of the impact pathway is that this is a very good way of monitoring also the progress of your project along this logical framework, this roadmap of changes. And this is a good way to see how you progress along the objectives of your project. Here is a graphical representation of the theory of change. So I don't enter into too many details, but you can see the different layers starting from your project activities and leading in the end to a long-term impact of your project. Here are some elements that you could consider for the establishment of your impact pathway. Of course, you have to consider all the potentialities of your R&I projects for impact, societal, technical, environmental. You could consider how relevant stakeholders can be involved in and how the stakeholders can benefit from your R&I projects. And you might also consider, for instance, the uptake of the R&I fundings for decision and policy making. So in practice, we require a preliminary version of this impact pathway at the pre-proposal step. It has to be directly uploaded on the EPSS platform, and an updated version will be required for the full proposal. You can refer to the Annex A of the call text, which includes many elements of explanations about how to construct an impact pathway following the theory of change, and in particular a link toward a workshop which is entitled Working with an Impact Plan, and it provides examples and further explanations and videos on how to construct the impact pathway. Now I will continue with another topic, which are the open science principles in this call, and specifically the open access and the management of data. The Blue Economy Partnership strongly supports open science principles and the open sharing of data generated by your RNI project. This open sharing of data is done in accordance with the FAIR principles. FAIR means findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable data, but also considering a balanced approach toward openness, with the spirit as open as possible, but also as closed as necessary. And this second part refers to the legitimate reasons that might exist for not sharing the data, and for instance, to protect commercial potential or intellectual property considerations. To support you in the management of your data, we require that you provide a data management plan along the life of your project. From the pre-proposal step, you will be required to upload in the EPSS platform a very first version of the data management plan. And in the full proposal, an extended version of the data management plan will be requested. This data management plan will then be updated along the life of the project. I continue with the open access. So in this call, all the projects have to comply with the full and immediate open access of the publications. So you have to use open access journals or publishing platforms, or open access repository for your publications. Further information can be found in the Annex F, which is dedicated to these questions. It is entitled Open Access and Fair Data. So you can find all the principles supported by the partnership, as well as the set of questions which are asked at the different steps in the data management plan, and also advices for the writing of your data management plan. You can find also in this document further information and documentation on open science. So thank you very much. If you have questions, either related to the theory of change and the establishment of an impact pathway, or about open access and the management of data, please go ahead in the chat. Thank you very much.
So for the moment, we do not see questions in the Q&A. So thank you, Sylvain. Your presence might be very clear. And you will find additional information in Annex F, which is available on the website of the Partnership Sustainable Blue Economy. We can go ahead with Thorsten Kiefer, who will introduce ocean literacy. The floor is yours, Thorsten.
Yes, so thank you very much. Right, so ocean literacy in the proposal, no, not in the proposal, in the call, is not an obligation, but it's an opportunity. And I'm Torsten Kiefer. I'm from JP Oceans, and I'm speaking to you today because JP Oceans is leading a work package in the partnership that is called Communication, Outreach, and Ocean Literacy. So ocean literacy has a certain ambition in the partnership, and therefore here's some encouragement or pointing you towards the opportunity of building that into your potential proposal. The partnership's ambition, so I'm showing you just 3 slides, so this is short. The partnership's ambitions are to have a different perspective, a different angle on ocean literacy than you might be used to. So it should reflect the scope of the partnership, which is really not on the ocean as such and its entirety of the ecosystem and so on. It's really about the sustainable blue economy. And there can be a lot of literacy increased in the population about the opportunities there and this process, the challenge ahead, and so on. So the 3 points that we want to address is to promote behavioral change among people, to enable the just and sustainable transformation of Europe's blue economy. So it's about behavioral change. It's also about generating interest among, say, the main actors of this transformation. So generate interest in sustainable marine innovation, in carriers, and in investment options across Europe. So those people who have to make career choices, maybe channel their, have creativity and so on to channel somewhere, and maybe also really finance, then it's good if they know about the ocean and get inspiration from this knowledge. And finally, it's to target real industry actors to influence corporate social responsibility for the just transition. It's not only, let's say, to pupils or so, but really industry actors also. Okay, in the next slide, here's the opportunity that the call offers. So the opportunity is to integrate ocean literacy in your funded projects as a component. And maybe you can also integrate some citizen science elements into the call, as we will integrate citizen science elements in partnership research innovation activities in general. Right. And so finally, if you then choose to put something in your proposal, and if your project is granted, then ocean literacy elements that you address are embedded in a bigger picture. So as I said, the partnership has ocean literacy in its ambition, and also structurally included in a work package. So we will try to create among those who have ocean literacy in the projects and add value to that. Beyond the partnership, there's also in Europe, there's a EU for Ocean coalition, and so JP Oceans is part of that. So that also offers opportunities to connect singular ocean literacy activities to into a bigger array of such activities. And actually the Horizon Europe mission, Ocean and Waters, also has a strong ocean literacy element. And then there's the global level, where you probably all know about the UN Ocean Decade, which also has many ocean literacy actions. And again, JP Oceans can be a conveyor to connect those. So that's all my information and encouragement to consider ocean literacy.
Thank you very much, Torsten, for this presentation. You have a couple of minutes, even more, if you want to ask your question. You can use a Q&A tool in the WebEx tool system.
Well, for the moment, we have no questions, but maybe during the next presentation, we'll have some more comments from the participants, or we'll tell you, Torsten, if you can answer them. So we will go on with the next presentation. Thank you.
So the last presentation of this session, projects monitoring by Abraham Trujillo. If you are available and free, you have the floor, Abraham.
Thank you, Coraline and Claude, and yeah, thank you to the Secretariat for organizing the webinar. So yes, my name is Abraham Trujillo. I work for FECIT, for the Spanish Foundation of Science and Technology. But in this case, for this task, I represent the Spanish State Research Agency, which is the organization in charge of the monitoring of the selected projects. So my presentation, it's a bit special because it jumps a little bit over the few next months to a little bit more in the future. So I will be talking about the monitoring and the follow-up that we will be doing when the proposals that are now being in preparation then become some of them full proposals, and then will become projects invited for funding. So once we have, I am sure, a very good pool of excellent projects, that is when our work will mostly start, in the sense that we will be in charge of the follow-up of the projects during their life cycle, and also in charge of promoting and fostering the interaction and the networking between the projects. So we expect that the projects selected will become a kind of a community of projects and collaborations during the future. So very quickly, on my first slide, as you see, there are 3 key moments or 3 key milestones during the project lifetime. I'm talking now mostly about the kickoff, the midterm, and the final term. These are 3 events that will be organized for all the projects jointly. So each project will have, of course, their respective individual kickoff, but after the idea is to organize a joint kickoff for all the projects to gather and present their plans and their objectives. Then we will have also at the mid stage, we will have a midterm event where projects can present their findings and their developments and discuss also and exchange information. And the final term, equally, these are 2 seminars that will be organized to exchange information and also to discuss with the expert reviewers. And these events will be organized by the partnership, but by us in particular, in collaboration with other funding agencies involved. So a very important aspect that I would like you to take into account is that the participation of you, or potentially of you as part of the projects selected in this call. The participation in these seminars is expected, and this is something that when preparing the project's budget, more now at pre-proposal stage, but also more maybe in detail at full proposal stage, you should count with a part of the budget for as expenses for travel and accommodation for these events. It is still to be decided if one of the 3 events might be done online remotely, but in principle the idea is to organize as much as presential events as possible to foster the networking and the interaction between the projects. And also that interaction, we will try that it doesn't happen only at the level of the different projects funded in this call, but also in the future with the following calls, and also even projects that are being funded in partnerships that have thematic synergies with our objectives. We will try also either to organize back-to-back workshops, or to make sure that the selected projects become part of a larger community. Next slide, please. So this slide before was about the, let's say, the networking and the interaction between the projects, and now I'm focusing more on the written reporting procedure, because besides of participating in these key events, there is also a desk work of reporting through written procedure, and to have this reporting also properly evaluated by experts. So as you see in the slide, reports will be mostly based on templates. It will be templates that will contain mostly key performance indicators, so some KPIs that we are going to develop to measure the development of the projects and the objectives, and also in line with what Sylvain presented just a minute ago. And the idea is to work on templates with comparable KPIs, because we want the information from the project to be manageable and comparable. We want to have a set of indicators that give us a very similar and as accurate as possible information from the development of the projects. The monitoring system, it's not yet in place, but I believe my colleague Catherine will present in a bit the submission system, the APSS. So basically, we are trying to have this same tool become the monitoring system where the projects are followed up. But in any case, the system, the software will be a very similar system to the one presented today. So you, both at pre-proposal phase and full proposal phase, you will become for sure very familiar with the platform and with the with the system, and the monitoring system will not be very different. The coordinators of the projects are mainly responsible for the reporting obligations, and it's them who must collect information from their consortium partners. So basically, the information will have to flow from the different partners of the different projects to their project coordinators, and it will be, our communication will be mostly with the project coordinators for reporting obligations. Next, please. Okay, a little bit of information about the follow-up experts group. So as I said, these reports, these written reports, where project coordinators put as much information as possible about the projects. Of course, there will be, also I forgot to say that there will be some space, some free text space for the particularities of each project. So most of the information will try to be aggregated through KPI, through key performance indicators, but there will be also room to explain any difference or any deviation to the original plans or any particular situation of the project, with some, of course, with some boxes for free text in those templates that we are preparing. But basically, the important piece of information here is that there will be a follow-up experts group of independent reviewers, and they will be responsible for the assessment of the project execution. And actually, most of them will probably know very well the projects, because our idea is to involve the same experts that will be involved in the pre-proposal stage and then full proposal stage evaluation. We will invite most of them to the monitoring, so they will be familiar with the projects and they will be able to compare. As you see there in my third bullet point, basically the process will be to compare the initial proposal with the reporting information in order to see the development of the project towards the objectives, or, as I said, any deviations from the plan. Of course, these members of the follow-up group, we will make sure that they have no possible conflict of interest when we allocate projects to them for review. And also, an important point of information that I wanted to give you is that these experts, these reviewers, will be present in the seminars I mentioned in my first slide. So the idea is to organize sessions where projects can interact with the evaluators and discuss possible alternatives, solutions to any of the changes that the project may have suffered, for instance, at midterm. So what we try is to have a good interaction and a good discussion in these events, on top of the reporting process where the project coordinators present their reports, and then the evaluators will produce a report based on that one for the call steering committee to have the information. So they will be present in the events, and they will have the opportunity to exchange and discuss with the project representatives. Next slide, please. Okay, a couple of important points to keep in mind. This is my last slide, and then I'm happy to answer questions if there are any. But two important points I would like to stress here is that I've explained now what are the reporting obligations and the procedures at international level, but it's important for the future projects to keep in mind that reporting obligations for all the partners of the funded projects at national level are still mandatory. And also these reporting obligations are very different for each national funding institution. So you will have to participate either as partner of a project or as one project coordinator at international level with us, of course, but each of you individually will have to reply to the reporting obligations in your respective countries. So this is an important point to keep in mind. And then, yes, just to let you know, even if your proposals that you are preparing in this moment go through the full proposal stage and then become projects, of course, I will stress this with much more details and with much more time during maybe the kickoff meeting when we launch the pool of projects for funding. But just I would like to say here that when the projects become a reality, it's us, the Agencia Estatal de Investigación, the Spanish State Research Agency, the authority that you will have to inform about any circumstances, any changes, any delays or unexpected problems that may appear. We are basically the authority responsible to help you find solutions for each situation over the life of the project. So that will be all from my side. Claude, Coraline, thank you.
Thank you very much, Abraham. So now you're with the Q&A session. Do we have any question?
Yes, we have one question asking if there are two levels of reporting at the Sustainable Blue Economy Partnership and at the national level. Do you want to? Can you comment, Abraham?
Oh, sorry, I didn't. So yes, absolutely, yes. I just I thought you were confirming the information. So yes, there are two levels of reporting, as I said, and again, I don't want the people to get any concern about this because when the projects become selected, we will of course give this information much more in detail. But yes, there are national reporting obligations for each beneficiary respective to their funding agencies. But then the reporting at international level, the reporting of the transnational project will be done through the project's coordinators, independently of their nationality or their affiliation. It will be done directly with us, with the Spanish State Research Agency as leaders of our work package 4 in the partnership structure.
Thank you. Any more question? No, doesn't seem like it. Okay, so we thank the three speakers, Sylvain, Thorsten, and Abraham, and we can move to the next session, which is about the call process, eligibility rules, evaluation criteria, and selection procedure. It will be presented by Claude, who belong to the Joint Call Secretariat at the ANR.
Good afternoon. So we have a two-step call process with a mandatory pre-proposal submission. We will ask you to submit a pre-proposal by April 14. We'll check the eligibility at the general level, that is to say, the level of the call secretariat, the general criteria for the call, and at national and or regional level. I'll detail these items later. And these proposals will be evaluated by an international evaluation committee. Each proposal will be evaluated by 3 independent evaluators on 2 evaluation criteria: excellence and impact. Proposals invited to the second stage will have to submit a full proposal. We'll do an additional eligibility check, and the full proposal will be evaluated again by an international evaluation criteria, at least 3 evaluators per proposals, and the evaluation is based on 3 criteria: excellence, impact, and quality and efficiency of the implementation. So here you have the call timeline. So the call has been launched on February 13th. The submission of pre-proposal has to be done by the 14th of April. You will have feedback on the selection of pre-proposal in July. So you will receive the invitation, or unfortunately a letter explaining that you will not be invited with the evaluation content. You will have, for the applicants invited to the second step, you will have to submit your full proposal by September 13th. And the selection process should end at the end of the year, early 2024. And we expect to have the project starting between February and May 2024. So we'll move to the eligibility criteria. I can see already several questions in the chat, so I hope I will clarify your needs. So the general eligibility criteria of the call, that means at the general level. So pre-proposals and proposal must address at least one main priority area. You don't need to address all subthemes. There were a question earlier if there were a bonus on addressing subthemes, and we cannot answer because it's part of the quality of the project, and you'll see later in the evaluation criteria. So proposal must be 36 months, not less, not more. About the requested budget, partners from the same country cannot request more than 60% of the total funding requested by a proposal. We are speaking about the funding requested, not about the global cost of the project. Only the funding requested. Pre-proposal and proposal must be written in English. Submitting using the EPSS, the submission platform that our colleague Catherine will describe later. Be complete. Respect page limits, number, and type of attachment files. So everything is detailed in the call announcement, so please read it carefully. And for sure, pre-proposal and proposal must be submitted before the deadline. So do not wait the last minute to submit. Another additional criteria is on the consortium composition. Each consortium must be composed of eligible partners from at least 3 different countries participating in the call and requesting support from at least 3 different organizations participating in the call. It's possible to have a self-funded partner, but they are not counted for the minimum requirement of eligible partners and countries. An important point to highlight: a self-funded partner cannot be a consortium coordinator, and they will have to demonstrate their willingness to self-fund their activities and show evidence that other partners are willing to fund their activities. A letter of intent commitment must be submitted with the full proposal at the second stage. Details about the consortium coordinator. So one entity must act as the consortium coordinator. The consortium coordinator must be eligible for funding by a funding organization participating to the call. The consortium coordinator has the responsibility to submit the pre-proposal at the first step and the full proposal at the second step. The PI of an entity the person, the researcher, can act as consortium coordinator only in one proposal. So you cannot, as a researcher, coordinate 2 pre-proposals. Next one, please. About the national and regional eligibility criteria. So just a reminder, please be careful of updates. As announced earlier by Carolina, we had information that several funders from Brazil will join. So we will soon update the SBEP with the national and regional regulations. So each applicant will apply for funding by his national or regional funder. So you have to respect their regulation. So the consortium have comply with all the relevant national regional eligibility rules. That means the funders of your partners. They have to check they comply with the rules of their own funders. So before applying, each partner should verify that at least with their national contact point or reading carefully the Annex B with their national regulation. So be careful. Sometimes on the website of the funder, you have detailed information in your own language, and you must respect them. So be careful on your eligibility. Do not hesitate to contact your national point for checking. And we ask the coordinator to make sure that his partners have checked their eligibility, because it could be quite complex to reject a proposal because several partners didn't check if they were eligible for funding or not. So we are moving now to the evaluation and selection procedure of the pre-proposals at the first stage. So pre-proposals declared eligible will be evaluated by at least 3 independent evaluators. These evaluators are members of the International Evaluation Committee. The evaluators will evaluate each pre-proposals on 2 criteria: excellence and impact. We apply a threshold of 3 out of 5. That is to say that if a mark is under the threshold of 3, the pre-proposal will not be proposed to be invited to the second step. So the International Evaluation Committee will meet to produce a ranking list of pre-proposals. But with only the proposal which meet the minimum threshold. The founders will meet to group these proposals. So with group A with the highest evaluation scores, and this proposal will be invited to step 2. For medium evaluation score, group B, the invitation to step 2 will depend on the representativeness of funding organizations, because we have to ensure good success rate as a second step. And it also depends on the funding resources of the different funders involved in the call. And in Group C, we'll have the low evaluation score. Low ranking means, unfortunately, not invited to stage 2. For the second stage, the evaluation of the full proposal. Again, this full proposal will be evaluated by 3 independent evaluators, which are members of the International Evaluation Committee. Depending on the process and the thematic coverage between first and second step, the composition of the evaluation committee could be adapted. This time, for the full proposal stage, the proposal will be evaluated on 3 assessment criteria: excellence, again, impact, and quality and efficiency of implementation. We'll apply again a threshold of 3 out of 5 per criteria, and a global threshold on the sum of the criteria of 10 out of 15. The evaluation committee will meet and establish a ranking list based on the marks, which with the proposals that mean the minimum threshold. Afterwards, the founders, the call steering committee, will meet to consider the order of the ranking list and select proposal for funding sticking to the ranking list and depending on the funding availability. At the end of the selection process, we'll send letters on evaluation and selection results to consortium coordinators who will have to communicate to his or her partner the result of the selection process. I will detail now the criteria. The detailed sub-criteria are presented in section 7.3 of the call announcement, so please read these details carefully, because it's the basis of evaluation of your pre-proposals and proposals. The international evaluation criteria must use only this criteria to evaluate your proposal. For transparency reason, we have published all the detailed criteria and sub-criteria, and the evaluators cannot consider additional ones. So the criteria excellence, which is used at both steps. First, for sure, your pre-proposal and proposal must fit the scope of the call. Another one is novelty research. How your proposal address knowledge gaps. They must see if you properly identify and manage the risk. And we would like to emphasize in particular the sub-criteria soundness of the proposed methodology. So soundness of proposed methodology includes the underlying concept, models, assumption, interdisciplinary approach, appropriate consideration of the ethical issues according to the do not significant harm principle. Sorry, it's a bit difficult to say, but it's extremely important because we cannot fund projects which do not respect ethics and do not economically harm principle. So we, in this secretariat, gender dimension is also evaluated, as well as the quality of open science practice, including sharing and management of research outputs and engagement of citizens, civil society, and end users where appropriate. So it's so we recommend you to read carefully Annex F presented earlier by Sylvain. So we'll move to impact. The credibility of the pathway to achieve the expected outcomes and impact specified in the call text, and the scale and significance of the contribution of the project. So you have to demonstrate the credibility of the pathway. Suitability and ability of the measure to maximize expected outcome and impact, as set out in the dissemination and exploitation plan, including communication activities, as emphasized by Carolina in the introduction of the call. Our actions are impact driven. So we need to see this in your pre-proposal and your proposal. And for the impact, we also need to see the added value of European and transnational cooperation and networking. So we'll move to the last criteria, quality and efficiency of implementation. I remind you that this criteria is only used at the second stage. So under this criteria, the evaluation committee will evaluate the quality and effectiveness of the work plan, the assessment of risk, the appropriateness of the effort assigned to work package and the resource, capacity and role of your partners, of each participant, and the extent to which the consortium brings together the necessary expertise. Another item under this criteria is the appropriateness of the partners and the justification of resources to be committed, including your budget request, your staff, your equipment. This sub-criteria includes the balance of scientific and financial contribution for respective countries' partner. So that is to say, we are expecting a balance of the contribution of partners. Okay, just a reminder. So please read carefully all the call documents. You will find most of the answers to your question in these documents. We are not strange people. We have written exactly what we will do with your pre-proposals and proposal, and we will follow exactly what is mentioned in these documents. We are very sensitive to the transparency of the process. So you can find this document on the website of the partnership, bluepartnership.eu, on the section All. This proposal and pre-proposal must be submitted on the electronic proposal submission system, as the link is available in the call documents. For technical issues on the platform, and only for technical issues, you can there is a contact help desk available on the platform. And for the question regarding the call, you can contact us at the Joint Call Secretariat. So if you have questions on national and regional regulations, please contact your national and regional regulations contact point, because we cannot answer for them. In addition, the call secretariat is not intended to answer questions of the scientific content of your proposal, as it will be evaluated by the evaluation committee. We are independent of the committee and we cannot give advice on the scientific content. So this was my last slide. And if you have questions, I would be happy to answer them.
So apparently we have several questions. We will just wait a couple of minutes because I guess Claude needs some water or after talking for so long.
I can see a question that will be the evaluator at both stages the same person. It will depend on the thematic coverage of the number of proposals at each step. So maybe yes, 100%, partially, or yes, or partially.
Sylvain, do you have any other question?
Yes, we have another question. What percentage of budget is self-funded?
What percentage of it?
You only have you only have a self-funded only if you have self-funded partners. If you don't have, and it will also depend on the national regulation. It depends on the funding organization rules. You will have to check the Annex B to find out the budget limit and this kind of information at the national level, I guess, Claude?
Yes, I can answer for French partners. They are a part of own funding for all applicants applying for funding at ANR because there are costs which are not eligible for us, so it's considered as own contribution. But in the case of self-funded partner, as we identified them, it depends on their role in the project, because they will not ask financial support to any of the funding organization of the involved in the call.
There is another question regarding budget. Is there any maximum budget for each project, and what would be a reasonable budget?
The reasonable budget depends on the activities you will implement. We cannot give more information. We have not mentioned a maximum budget per project, but you have to check with your partner which is the maximum budget in per country, if there is one mentioned in the national regulations. So it has to be checked on a case-by-case basis, but at the project level, there's no limit. And the reasonable budget, it will be evaluated under the criteria quality and efficiency of the implementation.
There is a question about the request of 3 funding organizations. The question is, do each partner participating has to bring 3 additional funding organizations, or in total, there should be only 3 in total, or by partner?
Well, each partner will be funded, if eligible, by a funder. So that means you must have at least 3 partners eligible to 3 different funding bodies in the proposal.
There is a question about large companies. Are large companies eligible?
It depends of your it depends of your national regulations. So I can give an answer for France. So please check the national regulation. Basically, French companies are eligible for funding by ANR if they respect the global eligibility rules of ANR for this call. So it depends of the funders involved in your national or regional funder.
There is a specific question about fishing companies. How does the minimum rule apply to fishing companies that receive funding?
So it's the same answer. Sorry, it has to be checked at with your national contact point because it depends of the country of the fishing company.
There is a question about the principal investigator. Can it change between pre-proposal and proposal? And what about change in partners, adding or removal of partners?
Well, we have if you read carefully the call documents, the PI can change only in case of force majeure. And about the change of partners, we accept the change of partners depending which partners and if it's not eligible. So I strongly advise you to read carefully the call documents because it's quite complex to explain in a few words during this session. And we explain and wrote it carefully in the call document. So I strongly advise you to check the call document. I guess it's page 44 of the call announcement.
Is the balance between academic and stakeholders a concern during the evaluation of the proposal?
So this will be evaluated by the international evaluation committee under the criteria quality and efficiency of the implementation. So as it's an evaluation criteria, we cannot give you advice. It depends on what you want to do in your project.
Can excellence rated projects be rejected due to oversubscription on the country GR return?
Well, we have EU funding to avoid this situation. So the contribution of a commission would help us to avoid this situation because we can use a part of the EU funding to cover the oversubscription at the second step, I mean.
There is a question, what do you mean by a balance of scientific and financial contributions from respective countries?
It's to avoid that all the scientific activities will be in one country, and all the funding will go to another. So it has to be balanced.
Okay, this was the last question in the chat, I think.
So if you have other questions on eligibility and evaluation selection process, so feel free to contact the call secretariat. We'll try to answer you as soon as possible.
Thank you, Claude, and thank you all for your question. We will move to the next session. Catherine Sa from ETAG will present the submission system, the EPSS, and also the partner tool. Catherine, you have the floor.
Yes. Hello, and hi from Estonia. So first, let's have a look at the partner search tool, so you can find different projects and partners. You can find the link on for the partner search tool on the partnership website. There are many partner searches listed already there. You can have a look, and if you wish, you can also add your own partner search there. But you can also search the partners to join your consortium, or you can search different consortiums looking for the partners with certain expertise. So there are two different kinds of searches there. And you can narrow your search a bit. You can search by example country or priority area, or you can choose different keywords to make your search a bit more easier. And when you wish to submit, you can click the blue button there and add your own partner search. Next slide, please. So if you're submitting your partner search, then you need to define first if you are looking for a project partner to join your consortium, or you are looking for a consortium yourself to join. Then you can describe your expertise and skills. You can choose different priority areas which you are interested in. If you have a project idea already, you can describe it shortly there, and you can add keywords so your partner search listed there will be more easy to find. And if you plan to attend any meetings in the future, you can list it also there, so people know where to find you and have a networking opportunity. So that was shortly about the partner search tool. It's quite easy to use. So I suggest you do use it if you wish. Can I have the next slide, please? And we can go to the submission platform, EPSS. If you have submitted an application, for example, in the Biodiverse Plus before, you will find this submission platform very familiar and easy to use. So first you of course have to register to the platform, and then you can fill out your profile and start to fill out your application if you want to be a coordinator for the proposal. The proposal consists of different parts. First, we have the general information where you can edit the proposal title, add an acronym, put in the project start date, add some keywords. In the second part, you can add and remove or edit your partners and participants' details. You can change the participant type, change the principal investigators, and then you can move on to the participant detail area. Can you go back a bit? Thanks. Where you can fill out the participant details, fill out the brief CV for the principal investigator, fill out the budget. And here you can also have a look at the preview of this part of the proposal. The next part is a short summary of your project proposal. You can add there the priority areas, scientific disciplines that would be involved, and select the sea basins that will be covered in your proposal. Then the fifth part will be a short description of the project itself, where you have to upload a PDF with the project description. And the last part, three parts are very short. First, it's the exclusion and suggestion of potential reviewers, if you have any options. Then you can fill out the do not no significant harm principle. And in the last part, you can have a preview of your entire proposal. So now let's look at some of these parts more closely. Can I have the next slide, please? First, let's look at the adding and removing the partners. If you're a coordinator, you can add and remove your partners you want to participate and have access to the proposal. Here are the links for that. First, you will give them access, then they have to make an account and accept your invitation to join the proposal. Please keep in mind that the system itself does not send out any invitation emails. So you as a coordinator will have to let them know that you have added them to the proposal. And after they have registered and accepted your invitation, then the partners can start filling in the participant details, budget, CV, and so on. Next slide, please. So having a closer look at the participant details, this must be filled in the system. And the participant details are the information about the principal investigator of each of the partners. You have to fill in the information about your organization and information and list of other team members that will be included in your project. Next, the PI of each partner has to fill out a brief CV on the EPSS platform. You cannot upload your CV as PDF. You have to fill it out there. And also subcontracting participants and self-financing participants need to fill out this part as well. So can I have the next slide, please? So now one of the most important parts, the budget, of course. Each partner has to fill out the budget in the system. You have two columns there, the total cost of the costs and how much you will request from the funding agency. The budget you will submit is considered definitive. Minor changes are only allowed if the funding organizations ask for them. So after the pre-proposal, you can't really do any changes unless, of course, the FO asks. You also have to indicate there which funding organizations you would request funding from. And if your country has several funding organizations, you need to choose one of them. And if you're a subcontracting partner, then you if you are subcontracting some part of your work, you need to show the amount also in here at the budgets. And self-finance partners have to indicate in a short description box how their participation will be covered in the project. So next slide, please. So another important part of the proposal form, of course, is the short project description. This has to be uploaded as a PDF. And now very important is that there is a 5 pages limit. And in these 5 pages, you also have to include all the tables, figures, and references. And the page limit will be applied automatically in the system. And after the deadline, if there are more than 5 pages, the excess pages will automatically made invisible and will not account. So for example, if you will put a title page in front of your 5 pages, then the last page will be invisible. So keep in mind those very strict limits. Also very important, links to websites and hyperlinks are not allowed in the project description. And there are some suggestions for the formatting conditions, and those you can have a look in the system. And there is also a list of elements that should be included in this part of description. And in addition to that, in the system, you have to fill out the preliminary data management information. And that does not have to go into the page limit. So, and lastly, some important details that to keep in mind. The proposal can be submitted by the coordinator. You can submit it multiple times before the deadline, and only the last submission will count. So you are not able to edit or submit the proposal after the deadline at 3 o'clock. So it would close automatically. And if there are any parts of your proposal that are mandatory and are not filled out, you're not able to submit your proposal. So have a critical look that everything is filled out. If there is something missing, it will be indicated with red, and you can see what is missing. And let me think. And oh yes, information in the that is given in the pre-proposals is binding, and no major changes are allowed in between the steps, unless it is allowed by the Secretariat and or the funding organizations for the minor budget changes. So, and that is it for my side. There is a technical help desk, like mentioned before. If you have any technical issues, please write to that email, and we can help you out. But please don't leave it to the last minute, because if there are many emails on the last minute, we might not get to you on time. So, are there any questions?
Thank you, Catherine. Do we have any question in the Q&A?
A question asking how all partners have to be in the tool.
Yes.
You mean the submission platform, because the question arrived earlier at the partner search tool. So you don't need to have all your partners in the partner search tool, but you will have to mention all your partners on the submission tool.
Yes, you don't have to submit the partner search if you don't need any help with that, and you already have the consortium and partners you need. But if you want to find partners for your project idea or want to join some kind of a consortium, that is an excellent tool to help you get started. But for the submission platform and for the proposal, yes, all the partners have to be in the tool.
Any other question?
Yes, there is another question. Should personal cost be calculated according to the rules of each national funding agency?
Yes. So each partner has to follow the rules of the funding agency. So, and the rules might be different for each partner. But there is no automatic way to distinguish if you're following the rules or not.
And there is no further question.
Thanks a lot, Catherine. So we will move to the next session, and we are almost at the end of this webinar. Just a couple of slides about the brokerage event that will be organized soon. So the brokerage event will be organized using a matchmaking platform. So the objective is to identify and meet potential partners. So it's a tool which comes in addition to the partner tool that you have already used. If you want to go to the next step and meet people, talk with people, please just use this event for that to build your consortium. Either if you are looking for a partner or if you already have a consortium and you just need another partner, this tool will be very useful for you. So as I said, it will be an online event. You will have to use a call-specific B2Match matchmaking platform. You can see just below in this slide the home page of this tool. So we hope that it will be open next week. You will have all the information on the partnership website. So basically what you will have to do, first check the partnership website to find the information early next week. Please check the website. On the website of the partnership, you will find a link. It will be a registration link. So click on the link, then you can create your profile directly on the B2Match platform. And then you'll be able to search for partners and also to start to interact with other people. So you'll be able to screen the different profiles and you'll be able to request meetings. So you'll be able to meet with potential partners for 2 weeks. And there will be a predefined time slot for that. So we will organize 4 sessions of 2 hours per week. So please next week check the website, register and start to meet people to build your consortium. If you have any question about this event, you can contact us, the Joint Call Secretariat, and you have the email just here. Do we have any question, Sylvain, about this event?
No, no questions.
No. Okay, so the last slide. Just same thing as before, just to remind you to check regularly the website of the partnership. You'll be able to find lots of information about the call, but also about the activities of the partnership. You can also follow the partnership on the different social media channels, so Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. We remind you that all the documents regarding the call are available on the partnership website. And the last information that you already know, but that is very important, the deadline of the pre-proposal submission, don't forget, it's on the 14th of April, at the latest at 3 p.m. Brussels time. So please submit in advance to avoid bite surprise at the last minute. So we thank you a lot for your attention. If you have a last question, you are ready to answer.
No.
No question.
No question.
Last word, Claude.
Thank you all for your contributions, the speakers and the attendees, and we are expecting a lot of pre-proposal from you, and we hope you will be inspired to submit a great project to our initiatives. So thank you for your attention. We will publish the link to see again this presentation, and we will spread the slides for sure. And we will produce frequently asked question document. Thank you, bye-bye, and have a nice end of the day.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, bye.